So my name is Professor Anna Fensel, and well, I come from Wageningen University, and today we'll talk about knowledge graphs and FAIR principles, also about technologies that are relevant for well, healthcare and life sciences. About my background, I'm computer scientist, well, by training. I'm a mathematician as well, and so in life sciences, I'm started to work in this area quite extensively after I moved for my current job at Wageningen University. And before I was working for more than 20 years, well, semantic web, then linked data, then knowledge graphs, and we see what comes next. About Wageningen University, well, if you don't know, it's a leading university for agriculture. Actually, well, first ranked in the world in this area, also for environmental sciences. It's not a very large student-wise university, but very large staff-wise university, because we have many research institutes, and research is done around food and feed and bio-based production. In principle, it's a very, very broad topic. You start from plants, from animals, how you do farming, then how food is produced, how food is consumed, food safety, and social aspects. So very, very, very broad scope. And also, why I like it, well, to work there and seeing how to use knowledge graphs and semantic technologies for such agri-food domains is because, well, I think current global challenges are well, very difficult, and they depend very on many things. Yeah, if you take health, for example, health and food are very closely related. Yeah, if you don't have a good nutrition, well, your health also will be bad. But if the food is not produced in a good way, is not on healthy soil, or cannot grow because there is climate change, with these circumstances, it also gets difficult, and it's very difficult to predict such scenarios. Yeah, because in agriculture, well, they relied before AI, before professors like me, on a lot on mathematics, and you can build them, well, for kind of simple scenarios. They work relatively well, and university apparently have been very successful. But now challenges are more complex. Yeah, if you so it comes impossible not to actually think cross-domain, and this is what I will be talking about. So, for example, if you take food, yeah, there is so many components on which are related to greenhouse emission, which is generated by food. But again, some of the things, well, are interdependent. Well, for example, you can maybe make packaging lightweight, but then food safety will suffer. So there are many things are interrelated. On the other hand, we have a lot of advances in AI and artificial intelligence. Well, I think also many of you have also a technical background like me, but also even when you don't, I mean, difficult not to see how it really we implemented in the last years in AI promises, which, for example, Alan Turing gave, that, okay, you put a non-human machine on the other side and you wouldn't know you're talking to a machine. So it's like machines do everything. You have they can generate chats, pictures, everything. So this is very exciting developments. Also, semantic web, of course, I think all of you know. Well, it comes from the web, and then semantic web, and then putting a layer of intelligence on the web, and ontologies, and well, it broadly became known 2001. Of course, research already on ontologies were much longer, already going from prehistory. And say also like to remind my students that actually life scientists, well, from Aristotle and very ancient people, they actually invented ontologies and not computer scientists. We just put them on the web. And then yeah, that's basically interrelations of things, and the knowledge graphs, and there have been term linked data used there for many years. Well, still of course relevant, which is more like disconnected from AI. but was very important at some point of time to explain people really you should share data online, and this is governments are doing. We have open data or research data, we do it. And then it started to become with knowledge graphs, and finally, well, it became picked up, and it's a growing, went on high on the hype cycle of AI, and big industry started to use it. Also, they partly can be constructed not necessarily manually. So it's a mixture of machine learning, deep learning, and semantics, and crowdsourcing, and many things. Basically, they are interconnected entities. Also, concept of fair data. Well, we know it also comes from the saying, okay, we need to make our data more reusable in research. Very important, of course, for cross-domain research, but also for exchange of information in the domain. And the same, well, applicable also for industry data. So, well, before going to life sciences, I have quite some work also with industry, for example, production industry, like they have in Germany. And if you evaluate them on fair scales, there are different ways to evaluate how fair is your data. And you take a company, well, small or big companies, then they will be quite low going on this criteria. So we had a project where we applied onto different semantic techniques and helped industry to actually increase level of fairness and saw what worked and what not. But initial level is not very high normally. If you take, it will be like low, and then it raises a little bit after project was successful in some direction. So it's a long way to go. Also, data spaces, that's also a concept. For example, for agriculture, there is numerous data spaces available, and also Wageningen works on them. And for every, well, not for every, but for many domains, there is data spaces lying around, and also how to make them interoperable is still often a dilemma. Well, data stewardship, of course, helpful. Well, we have them implemented. It's could be working better, but already having them, it's very important. I think it's also the fastest growing job on LinkedIn. It was noticed some last year. Intelligence systems for me is always a combination of humans and some kind of data layer and some physical systems, because you need to get the data out, be it from a farm or be it from some other system. I also sometimes explain them with movies, like we had first physical AI, and there is somebody like Arnold Schwarzenegger running around. We are a bit afraid of him, also father robots. Then there is a data layer matrix with parallel reality, and then we have AI completely interfering with our lives, like ChatGPT, like a movie like Her, where actually the main hero tries to live with AI and have a relationship with AI. So this is basically how we operate, and this is also kind of the core of intelligent systems. And data sharing is important, and then linking this physical layer data and the interaction with humans. And obviously, we have also data is the new gold, and also especially if you look at information technology and communication sector and healthcare, they are really like the most where resources are where the big companies are operating. The ones are like an S&P 500 on the stock market, and many also in China, in the US. So in Europe, we are a bit disintegrated, or I don't know how to say, but most of the players are actually not there. Maybe it's a bit troublesome. We also have a lot of decentralization efforts, and that is very important. Also, some are for political reasons, and it's kind of a trend started maybe 10 years ago, and it still continues, maybe even gets worse. And obviously, not all data are created to be open, so we can discuss how to handle this. So, well, in Europe, we are maybe not, we don't have the biggest companies, we don't have maybe the fastest developments in generative AI, but definitely I think we are very good at regulating things. So we have laws for all the data management. We would be the first to put laws like GDPR, to put laws like AI Act, to put laws like Data Act. And yeah, and we also implement them. So if you look at them, for example, GDPR, it's yeah, if you don't comply and you comply to GDPR, you get fined. And the discussion is very short. So, well, some companies, of course, don't care, but for some, it's a bit kind of a trouble. So these laws, they are used and well, by many taken seriously. So this is, for example, well, also the topic I have been addressing with my team for the last few years. Well, how to implement this data sharing mechanisms in the intelligent systems. And in principle, if you look at laws, the possible compliant ways to share data are, well, licenses, consent, and contracts. So one of the things, well, for example, about contracts we wrote papers on all of these topics. Well, the one which I show is, for example, about consent. And this basically helps people to kind of make a workflow that people can follow and implement consent, that it's always compliant to GDPR. So if you follow by design such system, you come to solution which is GDPR compliant, so you don't need any further checks because the system will implement everything correctly. And life cycle of consent, well, you can user should understand what is going on. User should decide, okay, am I consenting or not consenting? Then you can start to use some system, and then you can modify or confirm or revoke consent at any time. And then there are some changes as always. And again, you go in the comprehension mode. Yeah? And okay, this is kind of the concept. And well, we did also tools and solutions with this. And to make it explicit, and well, especially now in the time of deep learning, it makes even more and more sense to use knowledge graphs, because you can also, well, they are more explainable for people than for machine learning or deep learning models. So people can see actually what has happened and see and open their consent and see, okay, what is the status and how consent related to the status and so on. So we used this system or such solutions for automobile and insurance industry and for smart cities. So this was the use cases in the project we did, but of course it's also, directly, with some adaptations for relevant ontologies, relevant for health, for example. Another way to share data is through licenses. This is also, we often do it if you go in some system and you publish some data. Normally it asks you, for example, in order to select some license, and this is what you normally do. But we also made a system in one of the projects where you can describe licenses semantically. Mostly ODRL and most ontologies actually already exist to do it. So we had to extend on a little bit, and also users can create their own licenses. So if you can say, okay, I want to share my things like this and not in some other way, if it doesn't find a license that exists, it will create your own. So these kind of things are also possible. And then for contract, it's another thing. If it's not licensed and if not consent, normally you can do contract. For example, you can say, for example, I am a healthcare provider and I would provide my data to, for which I have consent from the users, to somewhere else, to, I don't know, share it with public authority and see how, the health of population. And these are conditions. So I do it every 3 months, and this is the data quality that, well, these are the things I'm transferring. So this is all can be specified, or if it's companies, maybe there is some payment involvement and things like this. So this is also something what we have been doing, and well, also these ontologies, they exist. You can connect it, for example, to smart city domain like we did, but also for health and other life sciences domains. So we also published a couple of tools about papers about tools for this GDPR sharing with consent and with contracts. And I think also it's kind of will be more the future how we will publish papers so that you have a tool or contribution and then a relatively short paper, maybe 5 pages or something like this, and then you can just take it and use it. So this is for the part on data sharing. A little bit shown. I think it's all very important to use this kind of techniques across infrastructures. But of course, again, if you do a trial in a project like we did, even when it was a large project, it's still till they really spread and adopt everywhere. It takes quite long, yeah. And very often we even don't have data modeled in a good way. For example, in the food domain, I cannot say, in health domain is often better, but in food domain, I cannot say there is nothing. So there is, of course, many things existing. There is also data infrastructure related to food. There are ontologies like Food On, which is many people use, which in this domain. So that's many things, and in principle also you can also do applications like relatively easy. For example, we had kind of smaller project related to climate change, where we did basically a system which allows for experts to check which kind of food or crops maybe will be problematic. For example, if there is a temperature rise, maybe some crops will stop to grow, and this is you need to integrate. First you need to understand what is important. For example, for the Netherlands, what do we eat at all? And for example, soybean, potato, and wheat crops are quite important for the Netherlands. And then see, okay, does it really? What would happen with them if the temperature rises? And then maybe you can say, okay, can I, for example, soybean, should I be importing it in the future, or maybe can I grow already at home because it's so warm in the Netherlands? So this kind of many scenarios, and you really need integration, yeah. And even like with checking a few things for, I don't know, somebody with nutrition science, it can be, experts are managing, but it may be not very easy. So we mapped and did additional also knowledge graphs based on FAO data, which is often lies open actually in high quality data, but not always in knowledge graphs. So we did this temperatures mapping and eco crop. And then you have also branded food, non-branded food data, and which is also very useful for health applications. And for example, if you want to find alternative items, it's a very, very frequent use case. I saw also a paper, somebody will be presented on the main conference here about finding food replacers. And this is also many people have been doing also without AI, but now actually we can build system which is hopefully with one click you can generate ideal replacer for your ingredient if it's not available. Of course, it also works in a standard way through Sparkle endpoint, and you can give standardized queries. So if people a little bit like understand what Sparkle, you can replace some. Okay, that's some mistake in the query I see already, but you can replace it on temperature and things like this. Even with low skills. Yeah, and then if you take multiple criteria, you can, for example, that's soybean. Yeah, if you look at nutrition, well, maybe almond is a good replacer, cashew, sunflower, pistachio, but maybe some of them, if you start to look at price or how people consume and what they like to eat and how they eat, maybe at the end they're not very good replacer. So it's kind of a tricky issue also involved in consumer science. Yeah. So even with such simple example, you see that is not kind of coming automatically. Yeah, so we did also made the resources available. It was one of the research institutes, well, food informatics. It lies in their GitHubs, all these resources from this project. And another one project we are doing, also have PhD students there working on with RIVM. It's RIVM is a National Institute for Public Health in the Netherlands, and they have a lot of data. Well, basically, then they're supposed to know everything about public health and help governments to do policies. And now a big topic is protein transition, and so finding. Protein transition means that well, basically we want to that population on the earth in general eats less meat and meat-based products, fish meat, so this animal origin, but more plant-based products, because of course, well, again, the resources are limited on the earth, and if we continue to live like we do now, well, the humankind, well, it's not food safety will become an issue. Yeah, that not everybody will have food. So this is a central topic. Well, we kind of after discussions, well, how to explain to people, we say, okay, scenario that we want to find ideal meat replacer in a positive way. That say, okay, we want to really to show, for example, instead of meat, you can eat some soy-based products. Or maybe in the future also insects, even though for adults, well, for people like us, most of us is not Europe, we would not accept this, but maybe already children will be learned into this. At least it was allowed a couple of weeks ago in Europe that mealworms can be added into bread. In Italy, of course, they already banned this, but not to spoil the pizza. So there is a lot of this kind of discussions. Also, if well, I think in Spain, of course, less, but in the Netherlands, if you go to supermarket, well, selection of products, meat replacer, vegetarian schnitzels, cutlets, whatever, will be huge if you see. Also, we have Unilever on campus. They have a whole, well, product line, which they will market in the whole world. So actually, well, it's a big topic, but of course, well, it's, well, we still don't know, to be honest, is it really, well, what the impact on health will be? And, well, hope none, but we don't know. And, yeah, and generally, which kind of things are, well, we hope they are more sustainable, and we hope it's also, well, people will take it or somehow it will be accepted. So it's a bit, but to calculate exactly the benefits, they cannot really do it because it's a complex question. So they decided to verify a lot of their data. So they have data for branded products, non-branded products, which is already verified in this project, also with my PhD students. And also we built a data management pipeline for, well, this kind of scenarios, and already put the data we had, something on the environment, sustainability, branded products, non-branded products. So some of the decisions we can already say, for example, nutritional values, decompose this, or find some similar replacer with similar nutritional values to what you normally eat. So to help people really to decide on what is suitable, acceptable, and also enjoyable for them, and healthy and good for environment. So this is the kind of goal. And we have, well, made this kind of pipeline, also some workflow to verify this kind of data and put them in the decision-making system. So it's already working. Some of the data, well, for sustainability still need adaptation to do this kind of decisions. Also, we foresee that new products will be coming. For example, now we have, of course, as meat replacers, well, we have branded products like from Unilever, for example, but they are mainly soy-based, but there will be more things. And of course, if you replace meat by simply plants which are more higher in protein, it also will be there, of course, if you don't want to go into soy. So it's kind of important to have this kind of pipelines. I found that people, at least that's the hope, that if it's there, people can add a little bit, little by little, more data. For example, when there will be products with insects on the market, they also will be added there, and so on. So generally, it's also important to start little by little. For example, you want to integrate food and health, and there are so many things about this. But start with just providing data as knowledge graphs and generating high quality data and putting it, interlinking with ontologies and verify, and then use and deploy, and then you see what else you need to change. So this is also, and it's going with the physical layer, like you have some platforms, also existing platforms from where you take the data, and some, the users which actually also interact, and by this you find new usage scenarios. So for this interdisciplinary life science infrastructures, or which kind of steps, next steps we need to do with knowledge graphs, actually, we also in Wageningen, it's not only me who sees importance of or necessity to interlink many domains, and of course use semantic technologies. So we also have been suggesting, and maybe it will get approved. In this case, it will be 35 million euro project, nationally in the Netherlands, which we will lead. We need to go also from domains to make these various domains working together. And you need to manage data collections, also manage data pipelines, manage data science workflows. Semantic annotation, interlinking of this data pipelines and workflows is still a topic. Then we believe that most of the things should be fair by design, so that you don't collect data in some random way and then verify, but you actually collect data which is inherently fair. Otherwise, people don't have time, and they should do life science research and not spend less time on data management. So it's very important to have really tools that allow to do fair by design. Like Fair Data Station, we have example, it was already in Wageningen before I came. And we want to have to integrate this data access workflow and workflow integration. And for this, we actually need to know all these conditions of how you can access data, licenses, contracts, consent. You need to have it explicitly, what I was talking about. So, so I think this will be the kind of the future. But also, how do we derive knowledge out of data? It can be, many ways, many modalities. From physical layer, it can come from sensors, it can come from pictures, it would come from stream data, and it's very, very diverse by domain. So now I will, for example, some of the projects I was doing already, examples, papers I published. So there is, for example, I also say it's a life science, it's about humans, so it's about human emotions, and they have an ontology or vocabulary of different, 200 or 300 humans' emotions. And we were trying, or did a knowledge graph assigning movies, analyzing their reviews with natural language processing, and building a graph about linking movies to emotions, that we can get a better recommender systems, which actually react not only just keeping you in the loop or on the system, but that you can maybe steer. For example, I'm sad now and I want to be more happy, and I want to see this kind of movie. So it gives you, if you have such resource, so in principle, media companies could do such better recommender systems. We also saw that it actually was done in a meaningful way. For example, we checked the emotions which were in reviews before and after COVID, and after COVID they got more sad or more down reviews, which was kind of also logical to us. So you can do some things well with also while generating such knowledge graphs from while using machine and deep learning. Or another domain where we different or similar way, like you do information retrieval, is a soil-wise project. It continues, and this is a project which, their project actually, which is to integrate all kind of resources from soil science, because well, the problem is that soil in EU, but also in the world, they are in very poor state, and also. Basically, yeah, if we do nothing, nothing will grow. Yeah, well, not nothing, but it's really where we run into problems because it's of all these things they were put in agriculture and the soil, and also it's very difficult in this domain apparently to collect and understand what is going on in general, yeah, because the data lies in all kind of things, starting from, I don't know, PDF files to relatively well-structured data in ontologies. So there are some ontologies in this domain. And the idea is here to implement and have a kind of question answering systems for policymakers. It's a very often scenario in agriculture and well, life sciences for us. And to integrate all these resources, and a lot of it is also in scientific papers, in data sets, in all kind of reports. So we also, well, at least for the part of group that works with me, we decided to look, can we do a knowledge graph, or at least put some core of this development into knowledge graphs. And we also, because it's a lot of unstructured data, well, this is a reminder what is knowledge graph in RDF. And because it's a lot of unstructured data, we decided to, well, check if you can do something with large language models towards knowledge graph creation. Of course, we have experts, but we cannot do, well, it's too big of a task to do manually. So we sort of combine human and machines in this application. Well, it's of course important topic, and we decided to build this knowledge graphs to integrate some of the resources, or when you ask something, that some answers are like certain and not like a LLM would generate, and then you don't know if it's making sense. So we decided to base some of these things on the, well, there is a big report actually with all this terminology about soil and soil monitoring in Europe. And we decided to use this one. And soil, well, there is some ontologies which can cover a domain, and some are also in development, some of the project partners also involved. And then we used, well, ChatGPT and, well, API, and trying to get it to use triples constructed according to ontologies, and well, generating triples like this. Well, maybe the kind of a main lesson learned, well, the work is still ongoing, that we saw that it's very easily captures simple things for which there are examples. It's very, it goes, so simple things are quite easy because there is learning things. For example, it saw a lot how to use AgriWalk and SCOS, so no problems. It really, well, facilitates the work. Also generates, for example, references. So we ask it to link, for example, to some literature which is referenced, and for literature, then we use databases where literature is presented, like in Zenodo, or resources presented like in Zenodo, and so on. But generally, it becomes very difficult if you go into well, more complex things, which for which it doesn't have learning data, so it stumbles. It also doesn't understand, okay, instructions like, okay, use URIs from this ontology. It can invent URIs, it can invent names for concepts and for properties. So this is a kind of a brief what we do. Well, there's also links from with Zenodo. Well, this kind of works relatively good. It's there, and you can basically connect directly from, okay, where does it come from? this fact comes from this paper, and then go check a paper if you want. So this is the kind of problem if you, integrate some of the things, at least some of the explainability or the traceability of what your conversation system gives you would be solved. So obviously we already see that to some extent it's useful. We also hope to formalize it, kind of a pipeline for this, and see how much really we need of this. We need of this expert input, and where and how much we can rely on LLMs in this knowledge graph construction. And then the final solution I think will be always this kind of in question answering. If somebody comes and starts to ask, we have soil experts, what is the difference between soil health and soil quality? Or another question, it shows things. It goes to the text and says soil health is this, soil quality is that, or give me all references related to the concept soil. But we want to also go from questions which really need this cross-referencing, because such simple questions in principle are already quite answered well just by Gen AI without knowledge graphs. But more complex ones are, you do need knowledge graphs, and what to do if there is this dependency and that dependency and this and that. So it's quickly gets lost. So this is also work in progress, what we are doing. In the best case, I think we will develop some new techniques on computer science side, how to do it. On the worst case, we will have only soil health knowledge graphs, but in every case, I think there will be interesting outcomes in this. So many challenges still remaining. So it also does not understand. So for example, selection. It's also, you really need soil experts. For example, the student that works with me, he took some soil courses, but again, when sometimes he looks at what generates, that's generated like this, but you can do it like this and like this and like this, and in principle everything is correct, but how would a soil expert do? So it's so you really need to also have them involved. And at the end, it will be a combination of like a retrieval augmented system, and part of it will be based on generative AI and technologies like LLMs, and part of it would be knowledge graphs, and this would be the optimal scenario. But of course, for this, we need to integrate, as I mentioned, to do solutions that are fair by design. And we also look at different solutions and platforms, and sometimes even design myself. Like, for example, we wanted to have it quite often, some of the use cases, conversion between GraphQL and Sparkle and GraphQL, and we did a tool which handles this. It's also this kind of, we started this work before really Gen AI was possible, but now it's really so much, people use also a lot Gen AI for this kind of things. To convert from one format to another is luckily becoming less and less and less of a challenge. You don't need to spend several months to develop such converter, to test it, and to write some paper about it. So, as final solutions, I think there will be a lot of this retrieval augmented and dialogues. It's also, if you look at the generative AI and the Gartner forecast, you see knowledge graphs quite well in the center. So they really expect that knowledge graph will solve many challenges which generative AI does have, like, for example, transparency, traceability, the issues we have that you cannot find reference, that it's not reliable. So I'm also hopeful, of course, like many others. And the last things, that's also what I do. Very briefly with my group is also exploring a little bit user interfaces. And sometimes they can be, not only about data exploration, but also graphical, like with gamification, for example. Would people would people contribute, for example, more data if it's better explained for them for which purpose the data is used, well, you have to explain for which purpose the data is used anyway. But also if you do it well in a nice, friendly, gamified way, it's also well, we wrote the paper. It's from the car industry, but well, we did like campaign, for example, showing people and saying, okay, if you contribute your speed data, we will improve the transport situation in the city. And then actually more people want to do it because they want to do something good. So, well, and it was also based on knowledge graph stack, which we did on this consent stack I was showing. It's also, well, as well, one of the, if you see for citations, it's in the top 10% cited papers in computer science. So people see this kind of research is needed. So we tested this with users. It was indeed that people were, well, if you explain them for what the data is used, if you allow them to revoke consents, they are more agreeing to share data. And this is also probably will stand also for health data and other life science data. And with also questioning, we also did, well, it's not only LLM, but also if you put some kind of, for example, this use case, it is a health study. We had data about smell and taste disorders from a hospital in Ede, which is close to Wageningen. So they gave us the data and we modeled it with ontologies and knowledge graphs, and then made a kind of question answering systems where you can, well, it's not yeah, it's a Sparkle query in the background, and on the foreground you can modify the questions, how they are asked, and a health professional could communicate with this data. So we also checked with a few of them that they actually can work. So it's given like a kind of classical semantic web interface and getting them to, well, explore the data and also find some things about patients. So it was just in food and health. In the smell and taste disorder, which is also a big topic. Well, it's for nutrition, yeah, because if you have a smell and taste disorder, your food consumption pattern become often distorted. So you want to eat, for example, fat food, and you don't realize this. And also, it's a very common condition for all of us after COVID. So many people actually suffer from it. So it was important to look at this data. Well, wrapping up, well, for collaboration and broader scope, well, as you see, well, I'm very much interested or think it's important what we will be doing, especially in the food and health and life science domain, is working really across domains. Even though it's in many domains, it's even difficult to achieve interoperability within one domain, but I hope that things will be changing once we have this transparent ways to share data, and also machines which kind of grab your data like generative AI and operates this in an easy way. Well, industry is talking, for example, about agentic AI at the moment, that you can really, well, they can start to mix the data like they do without asking us to be in the loop, and then hopefully we get more of the use of these things. But it will remain that we have to be look at the, well, how we get the data into the system, and also how we integrate with humans. So this part of well, data layer, data collection, integration, physical layer, and human interaction layer will not disappear. For example, yeah, I have also, I didn't mention, but in the food domain, for example, I have also a PhD student exploring digital food environment, seeing, for example, how many, well, just theoretically, how many pizzas you can order in the area and what does it mean for health. And this is also, you need knowledge graphs for this to make such decisions. Or about food safety. So it's how this practices with how we process food, how do they result in the what we get on the plate. So many things. And yeah, so generally, so I'm optimistic that, well, we continue on a good track with semantic web knowledge graphs and AI. We still need to improve in many domains. Well, data quality, because this is essential, because with this, neither LLMs or not generative AI nor well, semantic web linked data knowledge graphs will work. So some of some data sets, many are still unfair, and we need more fair by design tools. And we need also better implementation of legal compliance and governance frameworks, which makes life also for everybody easier and more organized. Also, people understand how do I benefit from this or that they share, and they really get credits for their work, right? So that we cite data sets in the future and tools, for example, if somebody contributed it, and not only papers. But for this, we need to describe also on which conditions you can use this or that, more like in software engineering. And for interdisciplinary collaboration and that you have some kind of standardized data pipelines, I think it will work for many areas. And then how to integrate them, it's also would be the next challenge, increase in one, apart from mechanistic, like GenAI would do. And I think also there is a lot of space for specialized research infrastructures for knowledge graphs and ontologies to enhance all these principles. And that's also we will have it further developed in green and life sciences. So some of the pictures of some of my current PhD students, and on which also I hope there will be some of the works, some of them already I was showing the slides, and we will be producing more in this data governance, food and food related areas like food environments, but also food safety, marine, soil, and plants, animals. So they really work on different things, and the only thing they have in common very often that they use knowledge graphs, and eventually maybe some pipelines will be the same across domains. So this is what we are testing with them, and how to adapt it, and how is adopted in this community or in that community. It's also different states of this development. So looking forwards and being optimistic, and thank you very much for your attention.
Okay, I really appreciated your talk, and I really like the way that you use knowledge graphs and reuse ontologies like Kebi. And do you see issues with ontologies that you reuse, and how do you feed back into their communities for improvements, or do you just consume?
Yes, there are issues, especially if you go deeper. For example, in soil domain, we see that many things are missing, or not, or in food domain as well. So in this case, we do actually get involved with communities. So in Soilwise project, we have some of the experts working with us actually who are also developing these ontologies, and they know very well where we struggle and consider at least implementing some of the solutions. And with Food On, they organize, for example, hackathons, and also some of my students who join, who work in the topic, they join and at least see what is implementable from their challenges, because it's very much in development, this efforts. For example, these two domains, I can mention as example.
Hi, thank you for your very nice talk. My question is about the knowledge graph that can benefit, knowledge building that can benefit from AI. You showed us that there are many issues in data quality, heterogeneity, so that's the main goal to build up a knowledge graph. But can you tell us how can you use this knowledge graph then to build up AI models? Do you so often the data are unbalanced, or the quality? So do you use the reasoning capability of knowledge graph to set up, to build up, to train AI model?
Yes, I know that's a current. Many people are doing this. If we do it, yes, I think it's also, again, if you built in pipeline and somewhere you include like, okay, on this point of and this step, do this kind of decisions and refer to knowledge graph. Yeah, this kind of things I think becoming common practice. Yeah, that's many people are trying still. And I cannot say, okay, this works for sure very well, but at least we are trying. Yeah. So it's also neurosymbolic AI. I think people in this community, they do a lot of such things, and they also don't like pipelines. They say pipelines are for plumbers, but we want to do this kind of more complex things.